YouTube, welcome along. We are on the road, the Tour de France is underway, and we have plenty to pick through after the first stage of the Tour de France. Sir Bradley Wiggins and Brian Smith in the studio with us this afternoon. And stage one and the first yellow jersey of the 2019 Tour de France has gone to Mike Turnison. Brian Smith, what a finish after 194.5 kilometres, came down to a photo finish.
I think he capped it off by saying, I think Dan Lloyd said earlier on that with 1.5–2 kilometres to go, he never thought he was any chance he was doing his job, and thankfully he was doing his job because he was in front of Groenewegen, and they've trained hard for this. But Turnison is no slouch. You mentioned it as well, his results this year, and quite recently he won ZLM Tour. But not only was his performance in ZLM, he actually in the prologue, the time trial of that race, equalled the time of Tony Martin. It just goes to show you how strong he is. But I think when he got into that finishing straight and he decided to go for himself, and in his mind, I know it happens very, very quickly, but in his mind, he's possibly thinking Groenewegen, because you'll hear it in your ear, Bradley, and that may have spurred him on, that Groenewegen's crashed. It makes you want to maybe win more for him.
Well, I don't know about that, but I mean,
to win for the win.
No, I think I think what it does do is that his mind was pretty lot fresher at that point, because he hasn't spent the last 200-odd kilometres thinking nervously about this. He knows he's just got a job to do. So
or
in
the
some
last couple of months.
Yeah. So I mean, in some ways, you know, once he found out the crash, so he's kind of just sat there like a man without a cause. You can either sit up or go, well, I may as well go for it. I've got nothing to lose. So in some ways, you haven't got that mental stress, and you haven't burned that mental energy in the kilometres before it, because his job was simply for someone else.
How much emotion does that bring, Bradley, to... We're expecting that he didn't expect to win that yellow jersey, but that will sink in at some stage over the next couple of hours. What will be going through his head as he brings that maillot jaune back to his hotel?
Well, I mean, he'll be in a different world at the moment. As I say, I mean, was it less than half an hour since he's won the stage? Took the yellow jersey. I mean, Brian, there wouldn't have been an ounce of thought this morning or any point during this season that he could potentially win not only this stage but take the yellow jersey.
Not at all. He came here to do his job. I think I've never had the yellow jersey. I've only had a national champs jersey, and I think it's when you wake up in the morning and then you see it there, and I think that's the thing. He'll wake up in the morning and he might still be in the yellow jersey, but you wake up in the morning and see that yellow jersey, and it might start coming to light. But this will probably, to completely sink in, I think it will take a few days, or maybe after the Tour de France, when he realises, when he gets back to Holland.
Absolutely, but the thing now tomorrow is there's not really time to enjoy it. It's not a ceremony, it's not a procession tomorrow. He's now got to get out and get into that tonight. As I said, we said at the Giro a lot, that day before a team time trial, day before a time trial, they'll be back to the hotel tonight. They'll all be looking at their time trial, the team time trial bikes. There'll be that mental frame for tomorrow. There won't be any time to celebrate him wearing the yellow jersey. You know, he'll have a skin suit from the race organisation, and it's probably not the best way to spend your one day in yellow. No,
in the team time trial, everybody will be watching you, and as Bradley says, there's no time to relax at all tonight.
Could he still be in yellow, though, after the team time trial?
There's a chance. They did say that stage was very important for him tomorrow, but we know the strength of the likes of Ineos. You know, I did kind of think that Geraint Thomas could probably be in yellow tomorrow. It remains to be seen whether we're going to have the sort of time gaps that are going to be sufficient enough to. I mean, it's such a short one, isn't it?
Well, you talked it's just over 27 kilometres in length. You talked about it before, how that team and where it's come from. They've had some horrid times in the past, sponsors, riders, but what a difference just a couple of signings have made. Dylan Groenewegen actually signed a contract for another team. That team folded, and he signed a 3-year contract with his current team, and he has developed, and he's developed into probably the best sprinter in the world at the moment. But when you develop, he's got other younger riders and another group. I was watching the ZLM Tour and the 4 days in Dunkirk. The combination between Groenewegen and Turnison is magical. It reminds me a little bit of the Cav Mark Renshaw situation. The way they got on, they roomed together, and although Renshaw probably hates Mark Cavendish, that's why he rooms with Bernie Eisel. But it's just, it takes 1 or 2 signings. It's the same with Roglic. Roglic was nobody wanted to touch him. Only Jumbo-Visma gave him that contract, and that's the difference of what makes a team. 1 or 2, 3 good signings, and then it lifts the whole team up, and look at what they're performing at.
Well, it was, unfortunately, a very typically crash-strewn stage one of the Tour de France. It looked hectic and nervy from the outside. What was it like on the inside? Well, here's Steve Cummings from Team Dimension Data.
Steve, a typical, difficult, stressful opening stage of the Tour de France, but a good result by Giacomo Nizzolo for you.
Yeah, no, it was really good. I think, what was he, fourth or fifth? Fourth. Yeah, so that's really promising for the sprints ahead. I think good day. And yeah, it was stressful, but because there was like, you know, 2 or 3 points in the race, it was stressful. I don't know, it kind of made it all a bit grey, if you know what I mean. Instead of like being 1 point, where it's like everyone knows that point, it made it kind of hard all day. So I don't. For me, it wasn't as bad as it has been in previous years.
What about your aspirations in this race? We know you won 2 stages in the past. Is there any particular stage that you're going to pinpoint, or just take it day by day?
Just go day by day and try to. It's about the team really, and if the team can win one stage with whoever, I'll be very happy. That's it.
Nice one, Steve. Thanks, and good luck.
Thank you so much.
So, fourth in the end, then, it was for Giacomo Nizzolo. Steve Cummings wasn't sure if he was fourth or fifth. I mean, that's a good finish. That's a team, however, that need a stage win in this year's Tour de France, Brian. More so possibly than ever.
Very much so, and I think I said it, Nizzolo can finish 5th to 10th all day in Grand Tour sprints. I don't think he's got it in him to win. Fourth, if they're celebrating fourth, then let them celebrate. But I'm struggling outside of Edward Boasson-Hagen and possibly Steve Cummings. I'm struggling where that stage win is going to come for them.
Well, we're going to talk about the team dynamics on Team Dimension Data in just a few moments. But for now, let's hear from the white jersey, Caleb Ewan.
Hi, Caleb. Not the jersey I know you were hoping to wear this morning, but still a good one nonetheless, no?
Yeah, obviously I was going for the win today, and I'm disappointed because not every day that we can go for the yellow jersey, and I feel like it was a bit of an opportunity missed out.
The white jersey, though, some consolation for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's better than nothing, but yeah, at the end of the day, all we want to do is win, and second or third's not really good enough.
Can you talk us through the end there? It seemed absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it was. You know, there's riders everywhere, and there was no real organised lead out. I think it just looked like every sprinter was there by himself, and you know, it's hard to navigate your way through a finish like that, and yeah, it was quite hard in the end.
When you look back at it on the telly later on, do you reckon there's anything that you could have changed?
Yeah, I think, you know, I should have probably been a bit further up front in the last 500 metres when we started going up the hill. But I felt like I was coming quite quick, and I felt like I definitely had the legs to win, so I'm very disappointed actually that I couldn't get through in the end.
Okay, well, I hope you feel better in the morning. Cheers, Caleb.
Thanks.
So probably a reassuringly disappointed Caleb Ewan there. Not going to be happy, Bradley, with third. Not going to be happy with the white jersey. He has waited what feels like a long time to get his Tour de France debut. Nothing other than a stage win will be enough for him.
Yeah, and I think that win, that finish would really suit him. You know, that was probably his opportunity to win a stage in the Tour de France. We saw him come and ride into form in the Giro d'Italia and win a few stages there, but you know, he was coming off of a successful Giro, and he would have really targeted this stage one and be in the position that we've seen Teunissen be in, you know, and taking the jersey and taking the stage win. So he will be disappointed. As much as third place is good, Lotto in Belgium, they would have wanted the win.
It just goes to show you that, you know, he was saying in his interview, he should have done this and should have done that. Every sprinter thinks that if they don't win, it's taking opportunities. Teunissen was in the right place at the right time. He was there to do a job for someone else and took it upon himself and just found himself in that right place and beat the former 3-time world champion Peter Sagan, and not many people have done that in this type of finish. But I think Lotto Soudal will be disappointed. Okay, they've got on the podium, they've got a best young riders jersey, but they'll be deeply disappointed. They put a lot in. They're one of the first teams that came up towards the front, and they never put just one rider, they put 2 riders there. And like Bradley says, this was a finish that really suited them. So they were looking at this route, we're going to win the stage and we're going to get that yellow jersey, and now they've just got white.
Well, Caleb Ewan will have more opportunities for a stage win at this year's Tour de France. One rider who won't, however, and who is still causing a stir here, even in his absence, is Mark Cavendish, because that is a story which is still rumbling on. Our journalist colleague at The Telegraph, Tom Carey, tweeted earlier that he had been at the Team Dimension Data bus. Doug Ryder, the team manager, had come off the bus, apparently, and said that it was a team decision not to bring Mark Cavendish, the 30-time stage winner, to the Tour de France. Ralph Aldag, then, the DS, came off the bus and said no, it was all Doug's decision. And there was a suggestion from Tom Carey, at least, that Aldag could quit the team in the middle of the Tour de France. What do you make of that, Bradley?
Oh, it's a bit silly, really, isn't it? And it's, you know, it's silly that we're at the Tour for these guys, the likes of Steve Cummins, as well, that we're talking about this. It's a distraction for the riders. It's not going to be good for anyone. And if Aldag felt that way, he should not be at this race. Why has he come to the race, you know? I've also always thought Aldag was a bit of a yes man. He's definitely in Cavendish's corner. Cavendish, you know, I think he should have been here. You know, you back your main sprinter, whether he's in the best form of his life or not. Mark lives for this race and should have been at this race. You back him 100%. If you're going to sign someone, you back him. We shouldn't be talking about this now, and I feel sorry for the other guys on that bus. I think there's very split. A lot of people don't like Doug Ryder. Certainly a lot of the riders don't like him. A lot of people don't like Rolf Aldag. The riders shouldn't be put in that position. You know, that's where good management comes in. And as I say, we should not be having that discussion, should we, Brian, at the Tour de France?
No, not at all, especially in the first stage. We shouldn't be here. Cav should be here. And you know, I've been involved with this team. It's, you know, I rebuilt it. I was the person that signed Cav, and then just before 2016 I get shown the door. We said it's going to be amicable, but it wasn't. And I can understand where Rolf Aldag is coming from. Rolf is a team player. He always has been a team player. Rolf will go through to the end. I think he's just venting a little bit because of the situation that he finds himself in. He's backing his main man. Doug Ryder should have backed his main man. In fact, looking back, he should have kept on backing me, but he didn't.
You would say that, though, Brad, but at least you're here, eh?
Yeah.
Where else would you rather be than in the Eurosport studio?
But it's not really fair to the sponsors, is it? I mean, that team ride for so much. And, you know, it's not fair on the sponsors at the biggest race of the year that we're discussing this, or having to discuss it, because two guys can't get on in the bus. I mean, it just seems ridiculous, really.
It is, and the thing, they ride for a charity called Quebeca, which is a massive charity, and it's doing good. And that's the thing. Nobody wants to say anything bad because it affects the charity, and we're all trying to raise, you know, give African students bikes and things like that. But sometimes a team principal has got a huge ego and he wants to make decisions. I know that when one of the riders got selected in the team, I know when Steve Cummins got selected, he was surprised. But one of the riders that got selected in the team wasn't even in the shortlist of the team, and even they were waiting until last Thursday for the results of, I think it was a scan on Louis Meintjes, because he's broken his wrist. They were even considering putting Louis Meintjes in because he's the big African GC talent. You don't break your wrist and come back and chance someone in the Tour de France. You don't do it.
Well, I'm just hearing that we can actually hear now from Rolf Aldag. He has been speaking to Matt Stevens. Let's hear what he's had to say.
Rolf, good ride by Nizzolo today, 4th place in a very, very chaotic finish.
Yeah, that's his specialty. He's really, really good in finding his way. And, well, first of all, we're happy everybody, you know, got up and keep on riding. It would be really frustrating, I think, you know, first stage of the Tour. That would be the end. So, no, but that was probably the best we could hope for.
And obviously, let's be honest, there's a little bit of controversy going around the team at the moment in relation to the non-selects of Mark Cavendish. Have you got anything to say on that, Rolf?
No, we said it this morning, and I think everything is said about it. So we support the 8 guys who are here, and that's it.
Is it true that you did want Mark to ride, though?
Well, it's not relevant, so the decision is taken and the first stage is written. So, of course, that's what I said, but you can read it everywhere, and that's not really relevant anymore. So our guys deserve full support, I think.
Thanks very much indeed.
Yep.
OK, well, any speculation that Rolf Aldag is ready to quit the team mid-race may be put to bed there. He sounds like he's staying. Maybe they've had words after talking on the team bus, then off the team bus to the media. Maybe they got back on again and finally decided, we've got to put this to bed because we do have 8 riders here and we have to support them.
Yeah, and I'm sure there'll be a team meeting tonight, and I'm sure that they'll all settle their differences one way or the other. They have to, really. I mean, Rolf pretty much said everything there. He does want Cav here. You could clearly see that. as I say, it's just a shame for everyone involved, the riders. I'll speak to Steve Cummins tonight. I'll get the full lowdown and I will bring it to the screens tomorrow, because Steve won't hold back in his criticism.
We look forward to that, Bradley. One thing that Aldag had said at the start of the day was that Mark Cavendish was in the same form, he said, as 2016, when Mark won 4 stages. He's been sitting on 30 stages since then. He could have been equaling Eddie Merckx's record here at the 2019 Tour, but it's all speculation. Doesn't matter anymore, does it?
Yeah, to Mark Cavendish it does. We're celebrating Eddie Merckx with 34 wins. Cavendish should have been here no matter what. When you consider that at his own expense, he sacrificed the British Championships to stay at altitude to prepare for this race, and he wanted to be at his best at this race. Whether it was the same as 2016, we will never know that. You got to remember, in 2016 he went to the Tour of Slovenia and never finished the second stage, climbed off that race, got second in the national championships, and then went on to win 4 stages. I was still the general manager of that time at the moment, and to go into that race with that form, I always believed that he could do it. I always believed that. I remember going to Australia and sitting down with him. You will be in yellow, and we worked hard on it, and he delivered. But at the end of the day, people are looking at him and saying that he got nowhere in Slovenia, his last race till then. National Championships 22nd. Well, anybody that's coming from altitude has got absolute dead legs, so he sacrificed that to be on song for the Tour de France and never got that opportunity. He always knew he was going to be in that team, and all of a sudden the rug was pulled away from under him for some reason. I don't know. I've known Doug Ryder for a long time. I rode in the same team with him in America. He slept on my floor. I know him really well. I've worked with him. I know what he's like. But to make that decision, it's a tough one for Doug Ryder, and he has to mend that. But I don't think he's a manager of people. I think Rolf Aldag will stay with the team. Like you said, he's a team player. He'll stay with the team because he is one of these stalwarts. Brad, I don't know what your experience with Rolf is. He will go to the bitter end to make sure that this team gets the best out of them through the rest of the Tour de France.
Well, Brian, typically pulling no punches there. We appreciate the honesty, if nothing else. Bradley, let's look ahead to tomorrow then, the team time trial. There's been speculation that Ineos possibly could be the informed team for that. They haven't won a Tour de France team time trial before. Is this their year?
I think it could be. I think it could be that you know one thing with that team is that they would have done their homework, they'd have done their preparation. The fortunate thing for today, I don't seem to remember any problems today for any Ineos riders, no crashes, nothing like that. So everyone's going to be on their A game tomorrow. So that bodes well, and I think it possibly could be their first Tour de France team time trial win tomorrow. And I still think G could end up in the yellow jersey tomorrow night.
Oh, that'd be exciting, wouldn't it? From a British perspective, at least. Well, it was a day for the sprinters today. Tomorrow, though, the GC teams will be flexing their muscles. They know that a team time trial, especially this early in a Tour de France, matters. 27.6 kilometres in the race against the clock. Once again, we are starting and finishing in Brussels. We saw gaps of around a minute and a half opening up between some of the top contenders after the TTT last year. So, as I say, the GC teams will know this is a stage that counts. Well, if you missed any of today's action, you can catch highlights tonight. That's at 8 o'clock on Eurosport 1. You can join us again tomorrow for stage 2. That team time trial will be on air from 1 o'clock on Eurosport 1. And if all the Tour TV coverage doesn't satisfy your cycling craving, you can download the Bradley Wiggins podcast on Monday. The first episode from the Tour de France will be available from the start of next week. For now, though, what a day we've had for the first stage of the Tour de France. The crowd's cacophonous, the sun shining, and the yellow jersey glowing on the back of Mike Tennyson. Day 1 of the 2019 Tour de France is done. Just 20 stages to go.